a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the kind invitation. So what we want to do in the next few minutes is share with you some data on the use of second-generation digital health platform for improving patient outcomes. So these are my disclosures. So as you all know, the major problem of all healthcare systems around the world are chronic diseases. These include heart disease, lung disease, cancer, pain, arthritis, colitis, diabetes. These are patients that suffer from these diseases for years. And this is the major burden on most healthcare systems in the Western world. In the United States, the US chronic disease market is valued at over $3 trillion per year. In fact, over half of the population beyond the age of 60 will suffer from at least one chronic disease. And as we age, we will have more and more people and more chronic diseases. But what's the problem? The problem is that around 30 to 50% of patients lose their effect to the therapy that we provide them. They just stop responding. Over 40% of patients do not adhere to their drugs, many of them because they don't respond. If I'm a patient and I don't respond, I'm not going to buy the drug anymore. This leads to increased admissions, hospitalizations, use of expensive drugs which are not necessarily better, and it's obviously a significant loss to the pharma company. If they have to, in some of the cases as we'll show you, they lose half of the customers per year. And here are some examples. Patients with heart failure, where the heart pump doesn't work and patients collect fluids in their lungs and legs, the only drugs we can provide them is diuretics to get rid of the overload of fluids. Around a third of the patients become resistant to these drugs. 30 to 40% of people with epilepsy, huge numbers, and the same number of patients with depression become resistant to all drugs. They just don't respond to anything. With cancer, this is the major problem. We have very good drugs against cancer, but after a few dosages or half a year, the tumor becomes resistant. Patients die. Resistant to opioids, as we all know, mandates increase in dosing until the patients die from side effects. And the last example is Humira. Humira is the blockbuster drug for arthritis and colitis. Its market sales are above $20 billion per year. 40% of patients receiving Humira will become resistant within a year. It means that for AbbVie to keep the golden egg, they have to replace half of their customers every year. So Oberon Science's system, which we are going to present to you, improves outcome. It is mandatory. As we heard very nicely this morning, there is low engagement and lack of trust of patients and providers in digital systems that assist in diagnosis, assist physicians, or analyze data. In addition to that, we all know that health systems cannot afford extra costs for what we call nice-to-have systems. They are nice to have, but they are not mandatory. Our digital system improves outcome. It increased the effectiveness of therapy and overcome drug tolerance. And that's why it's must-have. It's not a nice-to-have system. So we are all being born and raised with the notion that noise is very bad to our health. What I want to try and convince you that noise is part of the normal function of complex systems. But more importantly, it is essential. So this is Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. And as some of you remember, every year he used to come on the stage in San Francisco, always wearing a black turtle shirt, and he was presenting the new development of Apple. So almost 20 years ago, he presented the iPod Shuffle, and he said, life is random. Meet the iPod Shuffle. It's the unpredictable new member of the iPod family. You can upload 240 songs, and you can listen to them in a million different ways, randomly. We know today that the algorithm wasn't completely random. It was almost completely random. Now, Steve Jobs didn't know what we know today about biological noise, as I'm going to show you. But he was a visionary, and he came up with the slogan, iPod Shuffle, enjoy uncertainty. And in fact, only a few years ago, somebody did a controlled trial. He asked hundreds of people to give him the list of their 80 preferred songs. And then they listened to them in a regular order or in a shuffle mode. And in fact, most people prefer to listen to their favorite songs in a shuffle mode. So, as you all know, and we heard today, version 0 of most of the apps in the market practically asks the physician to put inside the medication, and then like, let's say for example, 20 milligrams twice a day. So I am Mrs. Jones, I receive a call at 7 a.m. in the morning, 7 p.m. in the evening to take 20 milligrams. It looks very nice. The only problem is that Mrs. Jones doesn't want to use it. Only 5% of patients continue to use these apps beyond a week. And that's the problem. There is lack of trust and low engagement in digital systems. So this is the digital pill, version 1. We will tell you about version 2 and 3 towards the end of the talk. So in version 1, we alter the times and dosages within the approved range. So we ask the physician to spend 10 seconds. Please put a lower dose if you allow, and give a range for the time, always within the pharmacokinetic of the drug and within the approved range. So today Mrs. Jones will receive a call at 7:10 in the morning to take 15 milligram. Tomorrow she will receive a call at 8:45 to take 20 milligram. Always within the predefined range that is approved. This method enables to overcome the tolerance to drugs. It increases adherence because it improves outcome. Mrs. Jones feels much better when she takes the drug based on this. So for her, the app is not a reminder. It's part of the therapy. It's not something that reminds her to take the drug. She noticed immediately that when she takes the medication based on the app, she feels much better. And that's the key, the outcome. So this is the next generation digital platform. It improves effectiveness of existing drugs by implementing variability into regimens. Obviously, the physician can see all his patients at any single point of time, their response rate, side effects. They can fill up questionnaires if he wants. For the patients, it's a very user-friendly app. The physician can see the patients receive a call and he just pushes a button. We have 90-year-old ladies that never saw a cell phone in their life that are using the app. It's very simple. They receive a call, they push a button. It applies to any disease. It's infinitely customizable. It gathers data on response and guides future therapies. This is a scheme of the second generation AI. Like any AI system, it has 3 layers. The input layer quantifies variability signatures. These are dynamic system factors, modifiers, and environmental variables. It can also use conventional data sets, but these are not mandatory for the treatment for this system. The output layers are the interventions. These are dynamically adapting regimens which are based on a single endpoint, the outcome. And the outcome is the feedback for the system. Now this system generates an insightful data set. It's not just a data set. It's data set that practically personalizes the treatment for every patient in a dynamic way. We all need to realize that I am now not like I was yesterday. I am already 1 day older. I am definitely different than I was a year ago. In fact, of all of my systems, even my disease. And the fact that I got angry 15 minutes ago already affect my immune system and how I respond to the therapy. So this system is dynamic. It gathers the variability signatures continuously and changes the output. Now, as you all know, when you bring something new to the market, somebody benefits and somebody suffers. If you bring a new drug for cancer, maybe the patient is happy, but the payer needs to pay for it and they cannot afford it. In our case, it adds value to all players of the healthcare system. We ensure engagement and save costs. For the patients, we improve their outcome, we reduce admissions and hospitalizations, as we'll show you. For the physicians, we improve adherence. The payers are happy because we save costs. If you save costs to insurance company, this is the only thing they care about. For the pharma company, we provide them with a market disruptor. We increase the revenues. This system has an exclusive worldwide license for Altus Care by Area 9 that serves over 35 million users all over the world. Now, I just want to make, this is the only slide I'm going to touch about science. So you all learned when you were at your biology class that our body is very deterministic. You look for moving from a DNA to RNA to protein to tissues to organs. It's very deterministic. But in fact, in parallel to these deterministic pathways, there are stochastic pathways. These are normal. This is how we are built. We are built to have this noise inside. So variability is mandatory for the proper functions of genes and proteins. Noise is essential for the proper functions of biological systems. And I will give you just one example. You are all young, nice-looking people. If you measure your pulse, you will see that your pulse is 60 beats per minute, very regular. If you measure it accurately, you will see that there are milliseconds differences between one beat to the following one. This is normal. This is called heart rate variability. It's the beat-to-beat variation in the heart. If your pulse will become completely regular, the likelihood of dying from a sudden cardiac death increases like that. So in any system in our body, you will find this variability. In fact, when you go to your blood pressure, your immune system, the brain function, in every system, we have a variability signature and variability-based biophysiological markers. This is normal. This variability needs to be within a range. If we have too less variability, that's very bad. If we have too much variability, it's also very bad. So bioengineering, and that's why also therapies and digital systems requires the development of framework for using noise. In any complex system that you go to, you will have a noiseless population and a noisy population. And our ability to engineer systems approaches the complexity and is limited by challenges, the noise and the intra and interparameter fluctuations in systems. So this barrier requires noise to be recognized as a design element that can be actively controlled. So the final example I want to show you is the use of this system for digital twins. As we heard this morning by many of the presenters, everybody is doing the same thing. We're taking data sets, genetic data set, clinical data set, laboratory, whatever data set we have. And then based on that, we try to build a digital twin and predict something. But what is the first step when we take a data set? We have to clean it. There's a lot of noise in this data set. This is the first step that anybody who is working in bioinformatics learn in the first lesson. Get rid of the noise, and then, well, what happens? When you get rid of the noise, the accuracy of the digital twin is 70%. So you go to Dr. Jones, and Dr. Jones says, you provide me with a tool with a 70% accuracy, my gut feeling is much better. I don't want to use it. So what do? We look at the noise, we get rid of the unwanted noise, the technical noise. We put the noise into the digital twin. In addition to that, we add artificial noise into the system, and we get to an accuracy of 95%. So when I go to the physician, I tell him, look, this system will provide you with a 95% accuracy in diagnosis, in how you analyze the data, then he is very happy. It's better than his gut feeling. Now, since we come from the Holy Land, I just want to tell you that we haven't invented stochastic thinking. If you go to the Bible and the Jewish Talmud, there are many, many examples of the use of stochastic thinking. This is just one example. So in the book of Jonah, the sailor cast a fate to find out who was to blame for the great storm that afflicted them. And according to one of the commentaries, they were convinced by the will of God only after Jonah the prophet had fallen fate every time. And now, after I presented to you the platform, I would like to ask Dr. Lehmann to present to you the use of variability-based digital systems in clinical practice.
Thank you, Professor. After Professor Ilan provided us with a conceptual basis, I will showcase in the upcoming slide real-world examples from our clinical studies conducted in the past 2 years. These examples serve as a proof of concept, illustrating how variability can be used to improve the response to drug treatments. Firstly, I would like to present to you the application interface from both the physician and the patient's perspectives. On the left, we have an example of a treatment plan where the doctor can specify the minimum and maximum dosage for each individual dose, as well as the overall daily doses range. Additionally, the doctor can set a time range within which the medication should be administered. The specific dosage and administration time presented to the patient will be determined by the algorithm in a variable manner. Moving to the upper right corner, we have a glimpse of the app screen as seen by the patient. Here, the patient can view his prescribed medication and dosage, in this case, fusid, furosemide, diuretics, 60 milligrams, and the administration time for the day. Here, 7:15 to 7:30, and mark wherever they have taken it or not. You can also notice that the patient could already see what and when his next dosage will be. Finally, in the lower right corner, we have the screen that allows the doctor to monitor each patient's compliance through the course of treatment. Allow me to present the first clinical trial titled Improving Response to Diuretics in Patient with Heart Failure and Diuretic Resistance. Heart failure is a complex syndrome in a global pandemic. Diuretic resistance is a significant challenge in the treatment of heart failure. Heart failure arises from either a failure in the heart's ability to contract or a failure in its ability to adequately fill with blood. Consequently, the kidneys retain sodium and water, leading to peripheral edema or pulmonary congestion, both significantly impacting the quality of life for patients. Diuretics are a mainstay therapy for heart failure. However, it is disheartening that over a third of heart failure patients develop diuretic resistance, posing a significant challenge in the treatment of heart failure. Attempts to overcome this resistance are insufficient thus far. In the study, Improving the Response to Diuretics in Patients with Heart Failure and Diuretic Resistance, we have gathered several results related to the severity of heart failure, which were assessed both at the beginning and at the end of the study. Let's discuss these graphs from left to right. Firstly, it is evident that the initial weekly diuretic dosage was decreased in the majority of patients, with one patient even discontinuing intravenous treatment. This substantial change indicates a significant improvement in his overall quality of life. Moving on, the subsequent graphs demonstrate the following positive developments in sequence. Improvement in kidney or renal function, as evidenced by the reduction in creatinine levels. Improvement in functional capacity or quality of life, as measured by the Kansas City Cardiomyopathy Questionnaire. Improvement in aerobic endurance, as assessed by the 6-minute walk test. And finally, reduction in NT-proBNP serum level, a biochemical index that serves as an indicator for the severity of heart failure. On the left panel, you will observe the overall number of hospitalization represented in darker blue and the overall number of emergency department admissions represented in lighter blue. Both contributed to heart failure exacerbations. During the 3-month period prior to the trial, the number of admission was higher compared to the parallel period when the patient utilized the app. As you may be aware, patient compliance is a significant challenge when it comes to utilizing medical and treatment apps. However, in our study, we found that 5 out of 9 patients logged into the app on more than 80% of the follow-up days. The remaining 4 patients logged in less frequently, but when questioned by our research coordinator, reported adhering to the prescribed treatment even though they did not log into the app. This is possible due to the fact that the patient can see their treatment plan a few days ahead, like I showed earlier. The finding in the past 2 slides highlight the beneficial impact of our intervention, showcasing improvement across various aspects of heart failure severity. The next clinical trial I will present focuses on the administration of medical cannabis in a variable form to patients who already consume medical cannabis chronically for various medical reasons. Medical cannabis is being used in many clinical scenarios, the most common being chronic pain, followed by muscle spasm, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, chemotherapy-induced nausea, and more. However, there are a few challenges for using medical cannabis. First and foremost, similar to other medication, we are also witnessing the phenomena of development of tolerance associated with prolonged cannabis use, necessitating dose adjustments or treatment changes. Other challenges include lack of validated regimens, side effects prohibiting prolonged usage, variability in formulation and administration modes, and inconsistency in inter- and intra-subject responses. So how do we overcome this tolerance to analgesics? In this clinical trial involving the use of cannabis in a variable form, we observed a notable improvement in the pain levels reported by the patients. They were requested to indicate their pain intensity every day or 2, and as evident in both the left graph and the bottom table, the patient experienced a reduction in pain severity. It is crucial to note that these are individuals who endure severe daily pain for a significant portion of their lives. A substantial reduction in 2 or 3 degrees in their pain intensity is highly significant and underscores the importance of addressing resistance mechanisms. Moreover, in the right graph, we demonstrate that 25% of our patients positively responded to the treatment plan by consistently logging their pain levels in the app on more than 60% of the study days. The adherence of tracking and reporting their pain levels highlights their commitment to the study and reinforces the potential benefits of our approach. The third and final clinical trial I would like to present to you focuses on the variable administration of dimethyl fumarate to patients with progressive multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis, MS, is the most common immune-mediated inflammatory demyelinating disease of the central nervous system, with a prevalence of more than 100 per 100,000 individuals in the Western world. Clinical evaluation of the severity and follow-up of MS patient is conducted using various scoring systems, with the most common being Expanded Disability Status Scale, EDSS. Additionally, imaging follow-up through MRI plays a crucial role in monitoring the disease progression. While there are several approved treatments available to multiple sclerosis, many MS patients develop intolerance and switch disease-modifying therapy during their disease course. This clinical trial aims to address these challenges by exploring the effectiveness of variable administration of one of these drugs, dimethyl fumarate. EDSS is generally regarded as an index that shows limited improvement over time, with stability or even worsening being a more common outcome. However, our study yielded interesting findings. As depicted in the right side, 2 patients demonstrated notable clinical improvement in their EDSS scores within the relatively short study period of 12 weeks. This unexpected positive response highlights the potential impact of our intervention. Furthermore, given the usual lack of significant changes in EDSS scores, the left side illustrates another noteworthy observation. Even among patients who did not directly experience improvement, we observed a slowdown in the progression of their symptoms compared to the period prior to the intervention. This suggests a potential beneficial effect as the rate of symptom worsening was notably reduced. Before we proceed, I would like to share with you one of our research success stories. Here I have received a heartfelt message accompanied with a picture from Gali. Gali is one of the MS patients participating in our study. Allow me to provide a translation to the message. Good morning, Dr. Lehmann. I feel great. We are on vacation in the Dolomites, and I'm proud to share that yesterday I climbed after I already thought I wouldn't climb anymore. Fear of stability and balance due to the sclerosis. I did it successfully and most importantly, with pleasure. There's not much to add. These are the things that make us continue to do the things we do and fill us with inspiration and motivation. Going forward and building upon the advancement discussed in the previous section, we believe that the digital pill increases effectiveness by inducing data-driven personalized regimens. The initial version of the app, version 0, primarily served as a reminder for the patient to take their medication at regular intervals and in standard dosage. However, since it did not enhance the effectiveness of the drug, there was limited engagement from both patients and physicians. In our current implementation, version 1, we have made significant improvement by introducing changes in the administration time and dosage of the drug within an approved range using an open-loop algorithm. This has resulted in improved outcomes and treatment responses, leading to increased interest and utilization. Looking ahead, we have exciting plans for version 2 and version 3 of the app. Version 2 will incorporate a closed-loop algorithm that takes into account inputs from patients and adjusts the variability of treatment based on the clinical outcomes. This dynamic feedback loop will further enhance the efficacy of the treatment. Moving even further, version 3 will introduce personalized pattern of variability, taking into consideration individual factors such as host characteristics and disease-related aspects. These personalized patterns will be quantified to optimize treatment, customization, and effectiveness. In conclusion, biological noise is fundamental to the proper system function. The system's inherent variability should be utilized rather than ignored. Generating data-driven dynamic regimen is essential for modeling. Using AI to analyze data variability improves diagnostic accuracy and treatment outcomes. These systems can augment chronic therapy responses. Finally, I would like to thank all our collaborators and friends from all around the world. Thank you very much for listening.